I thought Joel Klatt was doing one of those talk-back things.
No. Not after games like that. I said I got to be in studio. I got to be with Colin. Here we go.
And your beautiful family. It's the only college game you get to go to all year and just be a fan.
That's right. It's the Rose Bowl is, and there's a picture that you're seeing right now. There's me and my bride and my 3 boys. It's the only game I get to go to college game and take my 3 sons and just watch. And that, I mean, what a special afternoon that was.
By the way, they interviewed Jack Harbaugh, his mom and dad, after the game. And you know where Jim and John...
Oh, yeah. Jim is Jack. And Jack is Jim. I mean, they're like identical people. It's incredible.
So you watch the Michigan game, and listen, they held Bama to 90 yards in the first. I thought offensive, defensive line play, I thought Michigan was better.
Yeah.
Their special teams were a disaster. And I watched Michigan 7 times this year. The special teams were fine.
Yeah.
Can we just say, I said this earlier, they're 20-year-old kids. Washington special teams, Michigan special teams. Michigan was the better team and almost gave it away. Is that fair?
I think that's totally fair. Michigan was the better team. This is why Jim didn't have to go for 2 at the end of the game, because he just thought, like, well, we're just going to continue to dominate at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what ended up happening. In a lot of ways, Bama was fortunate to be in the position that they were in because of the miscues of the special teams were egregious.
I've never seen
miscues.
anything like it.
It was wild to see Michigan like that. But this team has, ever since I've started covering them, had a chip on their shoulder, and they would say behind closed doors, we want to go out there and prove that we're more physical than an SEC team, that we're faster, we're stronger, we're better than an SEC team. And in a lot of ways, they proved that this year, at least. And I totally agree with you. Michigan was a completely a better team outside of Jalen Milroe making some plays, and then the punt team for Alabama. That was the best unit on the field, was the punt team for Alabama, flipping the field a few times.
Okay, Ravens best team in the NFL. Michigan looks like the best team in college football. What's the connection I'm hearing about?
I mean, the connection runs so much deeper than anybody actually realizes. And it goes back to the COVID year when there was talk when Jim Harbaugh was going to be fired.
Yeah.
And they wanted to walk away from Jim and restart and do something else. And they stuck with him. He took that reduced contract, and his switch was calling his brother. And he said, hey, man, I have to get it right, and I have to beat Ohio State specifically, and I'll tie that in here in a little bit. And he called John. He said, I need your defense. Give me 2 guys. And he gave him Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter, and he said, choose one. And he chose Mike McDonald. And Mike McDonald was the defensive coordinator at Michigan for 2021. And Jesse went to Vanderbilt in order to get coordinating experience from that tree. Okay, so Jesse goes, and Jim told John, I don't want to choose. Both of these guys are great. I could take either one. And John says, well, you got to choose one, and the other will go coordinate at Vanderbilt. So he chooses Mike McDonald. Mike then goes back to Baltimore to be the defensive coordinator. So what does Jim do? Hey, give me the other guy. And so he brings in Jesse Minter. And now Jesse Minter and Mike McDonald are both coordinating the 2 best defenses in football. And they're running a very similar, if not the exact same scheme. And now what you're starting to see both in the NFL and in the college ranks is that people are chasing down this scheme. They all want a piece of what's going on. And what's going on is they build a run front with their defensive tackles. They play hard edges on the outside with those rush ends. And then they've got hybrid players in the middle of their defense, linebacker, nickel, and safety with good, solid cover guys on the edge. And that's what they've built, both of them. And they're eerily similar, and you've seen them dominate both levels of football in the NFL and college. And it goes back to that COVID year, Jim calling John and saying, I want your 2 best, brightest young guys. And he gave them Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter.
I saw Texas in Tuscaloosa power through Bama. I saw Bama's O-line could not block Michigan for big chunks of the game. Do we look at Bama and say, listen, they're still a very good program, but it's different now. It's different now. They're getting pushed around this year by 2 teams. And by the way, Washington beat Texas.
Yeah.
So I looked at Alabama and I'm like, that's the 4th best team. If Georgia was in this thing, they're better than. I think if they played again.
Yeah, they weren't that one day, but I think Georgia on the whole of the season was better.
I have not seen a Bama team dominated up front like Texas did late in Tuscaloosa and like Michigan did.
I don't think it's the end of Bama. They recruit too. They'll be good. They'll continue to be
very good.
I think what you're seeing is not necessarily like the demise of a singular team as much as what you're seeing is the what's the word? The proliferation proliferation of talent throughout the country, and that's now transfer portal and NIL. And what you're seeing now is that you're not seeing the loaded great teams, and you're seeing like 6, 7, 8 really good teams.
I think it's better for the sport.
I also think it's better for the sport, and I think that played out yesterday in those 2 games, which both were outstanding. But what you're seeing now is you're seeing the opportunity for schools to use the development model in order to be elite teams in the sport. Michigan's not littered with 5-star players like Georgia and Bama.
They don't have a none of their receivers could start for Washington. I don't think that.
I mean, maybe Roman Wilson. Maybe. And Colston Loveland, the tight end, he would be on the field.
Yeah,
he's an excellent player. But you bring up a strong point. I would also do this. Like, if you're looking forward, this matchup, to me, I immediately started thinking to myself, well, this is a matchup that is right in the wheelhouse for Michigan. And it's like, well, why is that? Well, this version of Michigan goes back to the phone call to John Harbaugh. What did Jim have to do? Beat Ohio State. What was Ohio State in 2020 and 2021? C.J. Stroud, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's the exact team with a different logo that Michigan said we have to build ourselves to beat them. The 21 Ohio State team is basically the 23 Washington team.
Yeah.
And so Michigan is uniquely suited
to play Washington.
Yeah. They built themselves for this style.
Yeah, no, I said this. I thought Texas, I took Washington money line yesterday. My take is Texas, it was a bad matchup for them.
That's right. Their pass defense wasn't good enough.
So even if they outplayed Washington, Washington would just come down the field if you did a prevent defense late and move at will. Michigan's a different ballgame. Good secondary. So I want to go to Texas, Washington. I'm from the Northwest, bit of a homer. I would say this, though. I watched Michigan special teams implode. Alabama's offense implode. Brilliantly coached Washington special team almost give the game away. Mm-hmm. We bang on Sark for his in-game coaching. These are 20-year-olds.
That's right.
Not 29 to 34-year-old pros.
I agree.
Sark got his team there. He won in Alabama. Washington was a bad matchup for him.
Okay, so I agree with a lot of that. If you're just running down the Texas angle, if this team was going to live by the sword and die by the sword, aggressive play calling on first down. That's what Sark is. We talked about him having time and building a matchup, building a game plan, and that's what he is. Think about what he did to Bama the last couple of years. What was it? Aggressiveness early. What he did against Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game. Aggressiveness early. And what that does, though, is it leads to a situation where if his quarterback is not playing great, it's 2nd and 10. And now all of a sudden, their first 6 third downs of the game were 3rd and 10 or more. Well, that's not a recipe for success. You cannot sustain that offensively. So, again, that's not a Sark problem. I think what's going to end up happening is I think that there's going to be a lot of heat on Quinn Ewers.
That's what I think.
And in particular because of those 4 plays to finish the game.
Yeah.
Now, we could debate like the clock rules and what happened with Dylan Johnson that even allowed Texas to go down the field in the first place. That was kind of wild with the injury and the timeout.
That was a huge break for Texas.
Huge.
I mean, literally a game-changing break. The thing Washington didn't want to do, the only thing that would get him in trouble is a player getting hurt and stopping the clock.
Which again, like, I don't know how to address it in the rules, but that needs to be addressed. Obviously, that's clear. But you go down, and now, like, that aside, Texas has first down, 15 seconds from, what was it, the 12-yard line, 11-yard line, right around there. And they've got great wide receivers. They've got what's supposed to be a good quarterback. And that sequence at the end was awful. It was terrible. As a quarterback, you've got to know that you can't throw a swing route. He did that like a fake pitch and then throws the swing on first down. I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what was that? Then he panics on 2nd down, throws it out of bounds. On 3rd down, makes a quality play to save a 4th down attempt. He's getting pressure. He kind of dumps it out. And on 4th down, Colin, this is where I think Texas fans are going to be really upset, is that Adonai Mitchell was open. He's open. If Michael Penix is on the field, that ball is thrown with correct velocity, trajectory, and leverage, and is a completion.
Yeah.
And Ewers threw the wrong ball.
Yeah.
It's about pitch selection, not play selection. The play was correct. Mitchell's open. He's got a back shoulder pylon throw waiting for him. It's there. The defense was wrong. They were misplaying the formation. They were misplaying the leverage. And Ewers lofts a fade. Yeah. Basically out of bounds. Guess what? Newsflash, 100% of passes that are out of bounds are incomplete. Yeah. You've got to give yourself a chance in that one. And that's what Penix does such a good job of, is his pitch selection and accuracy and leverage is uncanny.
He reminds me, he does. I'm not saying he's Joe Burrow, but this team reminds me, from play caller to weapons to quarterback, Penix and Burrow have this ability, this calmness that is, it's funny. Penix has been sacked in his career fewer times than Caleb Williams got sacked this year.
Wow.
And think about the hyper-athleticism of Caleb. And my takeaway is Michael's very unique. Burrow is. You look at Burrow and you're like, he's not that big, doesn't have a power arm. And you're like, yeah, I think he's better than Mahomes today. Sometimes great is hard to figure out. What is Penix? Because when I watch him, he sees the field better than it feels like 90% of the NFL.
So Michael Penix is an elite quarterback. I think he should be drafted in the top 5. Yeah. No doubt. I think the knee injuries will scare people off.
No question.
And he might fall, but I don't think he gets past 10. Because what you see is directly comparable to what he needs to do at the National Football League level.
Look at how when the pocket collapses, absolutely
calm.
Total calmness.
And even when he's not ready to throw, he manipulates the pocket with ease to get himself into a position to make throws. And let me point out something else. There is a huge difference between guys that throw the ball well and guys that pass the football well. And Michael Penix is a passer. And the difference is that he understands leverage. And understanding leverage, you take a guy that's accurate with the football, and then when you watch all of these plays, Colin, what sticks out? The ball is always away from the defense.
Yeah, it's very Brady-esque, very Burrow-esque.
And it's like an entry pass in basketball to a postman. It's always away from the defense. He's always allowing his player an opportunity to make a play. He's always putting the odds in these wide receivers' favor. It's not a 50-50 ball. It's a 60-40 ball. At worst, it's a 70-30 ball. It's a 90-10 ball. Why? Because he understands leverage. That's passing the football. He takes it to another level, and he protects himself well with both timing and the manipulation in the pocket of being an athlete. This guy is an elite player. I think he upgrades 13 NFL teams next week. And if I was drafting next spring, I would really look at this guy. Michael Penix and by the way, this whole narrative, and you know who you are if you push this, that the Heisman was done before the conference championship games, and it wasn't a conversation between Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix. You should be ashamed of yourselves. I mean, it just means that you didn't watch Washington football.
Thank you.
Because Jaden Daniels, as incredible as his season was, did it against Grambling and Georgia State to the tune of 11 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So you can pad your stats in a 3-loss team, or you can be undefeated and have to be the catalyst for your team, which he was. Michael Penix is an excellent player, and the fact that it wasn't even a debate at the end for the Heisman Trophy just shows that people don't watch Washington football. Yeah.
In the Northwest, we don't pad our stats. It's just not how we roll.
Wow.
Okay, so, can I I'm not people have asked me, you go on these conventions or something and talk radio, and does anything bother you, Colin, about the industry? And I'm like, I get paid, I'm off at noon, not much, cocktails by 4. My life's just one.
The everyman. America's honesty broker.
It's a good life. It's not like you're slumming it either, pal. So anyway, the point is.
Not saying I am.
So when
it's almost golf season.
When I hear this, the NIL is ruining the sport. The Liberty Bowl is dying. I'm like, bye-bye. Everybody has a funeral. My point is, this is great. If you're giving me this year with Dion...
Did you just say that? Everybody has a funeral?
I'll have one. I'm about, 20 years away, depending on my lifestyle. The point being is nothing lasts forever.
Oh, except in our memories, which is a line from, River Runs Through It. You're exactly right.
I love this year.
100%.
The best year in a decade.
The only bad part of this year is that there were not more teams playing playoff games. That we didn't get a chance to see Florida State play a playoff game or Georgia play a playoff game, right? Like, I want to see Ohio State play a playoff game and not have all the transfers and opt-outs.
And by the way, kids, Ohio State's quarterback wouldn't opt out if he had a playoff game.
I agree with that. I very much do. And if this year proved anything to us in college football, it's that the playoff expansion is so needed.
Oh,
we are desperate for it because, and here's the thing, those that are clamoring for either a non-expansion or, railing against these new elements of college football, you know what they want? They also probably on Friday night want to be like, hey, let's get the microwavable popcorn and go rent a video from Blockbuster.
Exactly.
That's what they want. It's like you want the past. You just want the past. You want what we had when I was a kid, which was set up 3 TVs, the only 3 in the house, watch with your dad, eat some wings, and watch all the games on New Year's Day. But that's not reality.
Here's the other thing that nobody wants to acknowledge is that those bowl games, I'm not going to bore you with my labyrinth of amazing sources. The point being is they don't make any money for networks. Half of them nobody goes to. The ratings are depends on the bowl. In the end, this Big Ten explosion, Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA, this SEC explosion, Texas, Oklahoma, is driven by networks because the audience wants big brands playing each other over and over. And college football's had one issue my entire life, and we both agree with this. The schedule.
Yeah.
They're uneven. The good teams fear playing other good teams. Are you kidding me now? I'm going to get on any Saturday. Penn State's in Eugene. Michigan's in Seattle. USC's at Camp Randall. Ohio State's hosting UCLA. Texas is at Georgia. Oklahoma's hosting Bama. We're going to get more big, gigantic games. Yesterday was 4 big brands. That's the best day of college football I can remember in my life.
In a long time. I mean, to your point, the schedule, next year Michigan's going to play Ohio State, Washington, and Texas.
And they're going to
who's sitting there except for maybe whoever's going to be the head coach for Michigan saying like, oh, I don't know about that. Nobody is saying that because we all want to see those types of games. This new era of college football, I think, is going to be great. What we need is just some guardrails, and we need some little tweaks. Like, for instance, Colin, we should have the playoff start right after the regular season. When college football is hot, continue playing. I don't know. Like, that's a thought.
Well, hasn't December been dead forever?
Of course.
You sit around waiting for the Sun Bowl. Now December is going to be filled with number 8 Florida State.
I think we
number 4 Ohio State.
I think that we should end the college football season with a national championship on January 1st. I think the national championship, if you're asking me if I'm in the room, I'm saying that setting, Michigan and Alabama, the sun setting with the San Gabriels, the Rose Bowl, that tradition, the longest running bowl game in football, right? But longer than the Super Bowl, any of them.
Yeah.
That should be the national championship game every year. It makes the most iconic brand in college football, the Rose Bowl, the ultimate destination for every team in college football. And you end it on the first before the NFL gets to the playoffs. Then you can open up the transfer portal. Then you can have high school recruiting, and you fix the calendar and scheduling and destination all in one fell swoop.
I said one of the things I love about college football, and I hear this occasionally, well, it's not as good as the NFL. All right, time out. You're right. NFL's Ritz-Carlton, it's closer to Marriott. But I've been to the Marriott Sports Bar, 3 cocktails deep, kids at the pool. It's a good time, too.
I think it's a little bit more like Hampton by Hilton, if you know what I mean. Free breakfast in the morning, coffee, waffles.
So here's my point. You know how they always say this when you have kids? The years fly by, the days are long. College football's got kids. They screw up. The special teams are embarrassing. It's driving you crazy. But as a consumer, I'm exhausted watching college football because I've got kids. And their careers are at stake. When I watch the NFL, LeBron James, or I watch Patrick Mahomes, I don't sweat. They're all rich. They're all great. College football's flaws? Yes, it's not. It's not the most expensive hotel on the block. But it's fun. It's vulnerable. It's kids. It's drama.
It's also tribal. Remember, none of you that go to an NFL game or watch an NFL game were a part of that organization. But if you went to Michigan, you are Michigan. If you went to Alabama, you are Alabama. It's a part of you. It's like Thanksgiving dinner. It's your family.
Yeah.
And so the tribalism of college football is actually much greater than any pro sport. I get it. Like, the quality of the actual sport is better, but the entertainment value and the tribalism of college football is starting to become very, very good. And by the way, it's so far and away the most popular of any other sport in our country outside of the NFL. I mean, it's far and away more popular than the NBA or hockey or Major League Baseball, for that matter. It trumps all of those by a wide margin. Ohio State and Michigan had 19 million viewers. The next time even a World Series game gets 19 million viewers,
19,
let me know.
12.
That's my point, right? And why? Because it's tribal.
Well, and the other thing that was great yesterday, Washington dominates Texas, but their 20-year-olds made egregious mistakes that you don't make in the NFL. Those games would have been over in the NFL. Washington wins by 10. But in college, you keep letting teams back in.
Yeah,
Michigan
exciting.
special teams, they just kept letting Bama back in the game. So the flaws end up being just jet fuel for drama.
Yeah.
Those games, Michigan was better and Washington was better for most of the game. But the mistakes and what kids do made those games riveting. I was exhausted.
Do you know how many times you're having a great family dinner and then all of a sudden it's just like something spills? Because it just got a little bit crazy and out of hand. It's like, and it spills, and it's like, oh, darn. Well, you know what? It's life having kids. I like that analogy a lot. And the tribal nature of it, I think, is important.
All right, I'm done talking. Klatt, you drove. You had some kind of...
I came up here just for you.
It's like...
2% J-Mac, 98% you.
Yeah. You know, we're trying to reduce his
J-Mac's
talking.
role?
Yeah, because it's...
well, then, you know what? Act like I didn't bring him up.
All right,
sorry,
buddy.
J-Mac. Everybody has a funeral.
I'm not wrong. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.